us now Jerry Seib, executive Washington editor for the Wall Street Journal. I was struck, Jerry, as I listened to that speech. In some ways, it was the most traditional of presidential addresses to the United Nations. In other ways, it was sort of off the rails different. What struck you?
It's a good observation. I think the first part of it was very traditional, kind of homage to the United Nations, to the need for countries to pull together, for the ideals on which the United States was founded, but also saying that in the Donald Trump vision of the world, the America First vision, it's not our job to project those values onto others, but to look out for ourselves. But then I think you're right, in the second half of the speech, it was the kind of speech I don't think anybody in that hall has probably heard before from an American president. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever referred to a fellow world leader as a rocket man before, for example, and he talked about the possibility of totally destroying North Korea. So this is the kind of blunt language that we've all come to expect from Donald Trump, but I think that in this setting is not exactly normal, and as you said, it will get the attention of people in that hall. For those who might have missed it, we want to play now that piece of sound that the president had regarding North Korea and especially its leader, Kim Jong-un. Here it is.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able, but hopefully this will not be necessary.
Again, those are words that we in this, country who pay attention to what the president has to say, we've heard that kind of talk before. But many of those diplomats sitting in the room, that may have come as quite a surprise.
Yeah, and I think the norm for presidents in recent years, at least, has been to dial back that kind of rhetoric when speaking in this setting. Donald Trump, being an unconventional president, obviously didn't think he needed or wanted to do that, and I suspect he wanted to do the opposite, to get the attention of people by saying things in the blunt way he says things. It's interesting in that North Korea passage that we just listened to, it was preceded by a call out not to North Korea, but to other countries represented in that room by saying no decent nation should trade with a country like North Korea. That was a direct message to China and Russia, first and foremost, that you can condemn North Korea, but don't simply say those words. Follow it up with action and stop trading and stop providing economic sustenance to North Korea. That was the context of that North Korea passage.
It struck me also that, it was George W. Bush, Bush 43, who coined the axis of evil phrase, referring to Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. Iraq obviously has a new government in place since Saddam Hussein was deposed. But we still deal with North Korea, whom the president spoke about, and Iran. Listen to what he had to say.
It is far past time for the nations of the world to confront another reckless regime, one that speaks openly of mass murder, vowing death to America, destruction to Israel, and ruin for many leaders and nations in this room. The Iranian government masks a corrupt dictatorship behind the false guise of a democracy.
You had to wonder what the Iranian delegation there and the UN ambassador from Iran was thinking there as he heard those words. Does that kind of talk, is it helpful, Jerry?
Well, we'll see. I think the headline out of this speech will probably be the North Korea passage, and rightly so. But if you're looking for a cleaner break from Obama administration policy, you don't have to look any further than that passage about the Iranian regime. The whole Obama approach was let's pull Iran into the community of nations, let's negotiate with them, and in that process we will temper their behavior. That's not what Donald Trump wants to do. He basically said, they lie beyond the circle of nations that behave by international norms, and you can't really deal with them. And so that is a much cleaner break. Everybody has the same kind of rhetoric about North Korea, maybe not quite in Donald Trump tones, but the real break was when in the policy toward Iran. Interestingly, he didn't raise the nuclear deal in this context. You know, he is approaching a decision about whether to continue to live under the nuclear deal with Iran that the Obama administration negotiated. The deadline is only a few weeks away. He edged up to that by saying, "You'll hear more about this, I'm sure," but by not tipping his hand there, he's left open the question of what exactly he's going to do about that nuclear deal that he criticized so harshly.
He was elected in part because he told the people of this country that he would be putting America first. Yeah. He told the world leaders there in assembly at the United Nations that putting America first and putting each other's self-interest first is actually a good thing. Here it is.
Our government's first duty is to its people, to our citizens, to serve their needs, to ensure their safety, to preserve their rights, and to defend their values. As President of the United States, I will always put America first. Just like you, as the leaders of your countries, will always and should always put your countries first.
He got some applause with that line. I can't imagine anybody in the room really disagreeing with that sentiment.
Well, that was what was interesting about that passage. It was an attempt, I thought, to interpret America first, which is the Trump motto, after all, to the people in the room who probably see it as either a threat to them or an attempt by the U.S. to back away from involvement in international affairs. And I think what President Trump tried to do was put it in a different light, to say that America first only means that my responsibility is the same responsibility that you all have, which is to look out for the interests of your own people first. That's all it means. And that means in some cases engaging with you and in some cases looking out for ourselves first. But it doesn't mean anything for me other than what you probably all think your first responsibilities as world leaders are as well. So I thought it was an interesting attempt to define what America first really means in the context of a United Nations gathering.
It was quite a speech. We'll see whether it changes anything at the United Nations. Jerry Seib from the Wall Street Journal. Jerry, thank you.